Daddy don't seem to like me, and I intend to keep it that way. Mama never seemed to like me, at least that's what she used to say. 'Cause I'm the prince of darkness, I'm what goes bump in the night. Yeah, I'm the devil's light. One more time. Dad never seemed to like me, and I intend to keep it that way. Mama don't seem to like me, at least that's what she used to say. 'Cause when I've been out drinking,
I
I'm
still
what
have
goes
a
bump
dream.
in the night.
Always audio issues with us. Why is it every time we come to?
What is it? How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Eskwilax Hour. Thank you for joining us today. We have a couple of cool performances. My name is Josie yet again, and we have today with us Angel.
Hi everybody. We're back. We had a little leave of absence, but every great performance, there has to be like a moment of vacation. We got a little vacation. Now we're back on. The team wants us back. I hope. No audio, Marco? Is it still audio? There's audio? All right. Sorry, viewers. We always have issues with audio. It's our dilemma, right, Fifi? She's kind of sick right now, so. But go, Josie, introduce our events and what everybody did this week.
Okay, well, we did have a couple of events. Normally, the Eskwilax street team gets out and does some kind of gallery or play, or go to see different kinds of artists, a lot of DIY artists also. Recently, they've been doing TFTI, which is the photo meet that we all have begun to be familiar with the underground scene of photographers and models and artists and all kinds of performers and entertainers, and gather together and enjoy doing what they like to do under the night sky, which is pretty cool. Recently, we've had a couple different modeling done by one of our friends and scholars, Edna Elizabeth, and she's been doing her really cool
and Georgie impersonation.
I think it's really cool. Like, I give her mad props. Yesterday she was at the downtown LA Art Walk, which was super cool. We were supposed to be there with their backdrop.
But shout outs to Born to Rise too, because they're having their Friday the 13th special, which is $31 tattoos plus $9 tip. That's hence for the tattoo artist. But
and
overall,
piercings for like $13, just in case you're close to
31 for Friday the 13th tattoos.
$13 piercings.
Oh yeah, 13 on the piercings too.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
But yeah.
That's a deal.
But yeah, definitely shout out to her being out there as Georgie and getting cool pictures and just enjoying having fun. So today we have a couple different artists. One, we have Jesua, who's gonna come back and she's gonna do some live drawing, and maybe we'll ask her a couple questions about the most recent events she's been doing.
Right.
Last time when she came onto the show, she told us she had a couple events happening. Even
and
part
then
of
this Wednesday's performance that she had.
And this Wednesday performance, which she won, which is really, really cool. And then also you have your friend.
Oh yeah, one of the I would say big influence within my generation for the whole ska movement and punk movement within East LA and outside of East LA. His name is Esteban Flores. Most people know him from Mata Mosca, Steady 45, and South Central Skankers. I can name so many more, but this is just
let him introduce
the tip of the iceberg,
to the scene. So definitely welcome to the floor.
All right, Esteban.
And then we're also going to have Art Manifesto, which is going to be really cool. Our two recent guests and continuing guests. So
take a seat,
we'll see you guys in the second
Get in the
half.
hot chair.
But everyone who is tuned in to the Eskwilax Hour today, we got Marco in the house, we got Efren in the house, and we have Hoken in the house. So, and of course Nolan, and Fifi. So how's it going, you guys? Tell us about yourself, Esteban.
Hey, hello.
How's it going? Welcome.
Hello. I'm doing good. I'm just, coming back from a long day and just came here to hang out with my friends. I've known Angel here for a very long time.
Right.
Like 12 years hanging out with you.
Oh, that's a while, right? That's like a decade.
A little more than a decade.
All right.
I'm jealous.
Right, but it was fun because at first when we were going to ska shows and whatnot, it was one of those things where curfew was still 10 p.m. Buses didn't run until 12 as much, so everybody had to like make it there somehow, be inside the show, see a couple bands, and then leave. Yeah, man.
I mean, not from what I remember.
Right.
No, I mean, recalling back in the days, I doing this since we were 14. The routine was, we'll meet up with our friends, and we'll go to a show walking sometimes without bus money, or we'll pitch in for our friends. We'll all go together, and then we'll go support music, and then somehow we'll just figure it out all together we'll figure out together, how to.
Make sure you can hear yourself.
I could hear myself.
Perfect.
We'll make sure we get home somehow, or we'll stay over. Like that one time we all stayed over Alan's house. Oh, yeah, we just all contribute and we helped each other. We were kind of like a miniature family at the time. Right. It was cool, man. We rolled deep. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I just did this for a while. I became, from a person who goes to shows all the way to someone who just plays shows nowadays. I never really expected myself to be in this position. Right. I happened to pick up playing instruments, and now I'm playing with bands that I look up to.
Right, and when you started, were there a couple of bands that you started with before you moved on to the bigger bands that you're in, I would say?
Yeah, there's a band that used to be from Koreatown called Rencor. And
shout out to Rencor.
Yeah, and we were just a bunch of friends that that we all hang out and go to shows together, and we happened to make a band, and I don't know, we just made music and we loved it. We played a couple shows for a bit, then dissolved. And
right, like every great big thing, sometimes it has to come to an end at one point. But that was just like a beginning stage, right?
That was like
just like a kick-off.
Yeah, pre anything, because like I didn't even experience like actual shows till I was older. After Rencor, I met up with my old friends from high school, and they made Mascarados, and I joined later on, and that's when I started kind of getting serious with playing keyboard and honing my skills. And after a while, I just started playing shows constantly. Did about 100 shows in the last 6 months, and that was like pretty much 2-3 shows every single weekend, nonstop.
But also with that factor, you were somebody that just was learning how to play music. You learned everything by ear.
Yeah, I was not classically trained. My family, we come from a low-income family. We're actually locals from East LA, and we immigrated from Mexico, and we came here poor. We started poor. I didn't have the opportunity to afford piano lessons, so I taught myself through ear, through experience, through mistakes, and eventually just honed my skills. I didn't learn until I was already in college. So at this time, I was still in high school, and I didn't know anything about theory. I just picked up what I heard.
All right, that's good. But what do you have to say to the younger audience, or the audience that's viewing now, that doesn't necessarily have the ability to say or the confidence to say, hey, I'm going to start learning an instrument, and by learning this instrument, I'm going to start honing it, like improving on what I'm going to do.
Well, I mean, in that you go to basic passion and motivation. You got to be passionate enough to achieve a goal and then motivate yourself to get through it. When I started, I didn't take it. I didn't take it. I never took it as serious as I did now. It was all for fun, hang out with my friends. It kind of got serious after Mascarado. I started kind of just practicing and telling myself, you know what, if I could do it, I could practice it if I really believe in it. I saw a bunch of the keyboardists, and I grew like, not envious, but kind of like competitive. And I just like, I want to be like this. I want to play like this. I want to be at that level. I want to know how it feels to be a good musician, to be acknowledged. So through that, I motivated myself to practice every single day. And and even up to now, I'm still a student, a musician, or as a person who seeks education, is a student every single day of their life. So that's what I actually believe.
No, yeah, I wanted to even go back to more basic. How would you describe ska? Like for someone who's been on the show right now, and it's just like, what's ska? Like, or why did you guys choose ska as like your first like genre? You know.
That ska core as well, talk about ska core and how that genre broke off from ska or originated from ska.
I mean, to start from that, you got to go like in reverse. Like ska is like music from the '60s. It's like it came before reggae, before everything. It was a mixture of mento, calypso, and several other rhythms. Ska started out with the founders, the Scatolites, and then it kind of like it stayed on the island for a while. Then it broke off into England or South America, and it fused with other roots such as rock, punk, more like upbeat reggae, styles. And then ska became two-tone, became dub, became what you call now third wave, and
we're talking about genres that are very underground. I mean, if you do go on iTunes, you can find ska, but what kind of bands pop up? But at the back in the day, or even now today, they're barely coming up because these are very underground topics, I guess. I mean, I think.
I mean, this like most bands here too. I mean, if you look up like, local band, Resistencia or Ocho Calacas or something like that, you see them. They're not under a ska genre. They're like hard rock, punk, or alternative. At some point, ska was big. It was in K-Rock, and it was on movies and TV shows. It had a following, and then it gets like all music business or like all business in general, people just take a disinterest. They look for another fad, Like right now, people are into easy listening or trap music or whatever they're into right now. But that's like the big fad. Ska used to be that big fad. Mm-hmm. It's true nowadays. Ska music is getting a little more apparent, and especially like ska from here is getting more apparent and anywhere else is manifesting outside of LA to other sides of the country. And with that, we're getting a little more listens, we're getting a little more followers, we're getting people who actually want to come see these bands. Right. And that's that. I would like to think that that's the goal for bands here in LA, that they should tour, they should expose themselves to other people that are dying to hear them. Mm-hmm. There's people. I've traveled to New York or the middle of nowhere in the U.S. and I talk about these bands and they don't know who I'm talking about, but I tell them about how LA is, the scene is, and they want to know about it. They want to come here. They want to check it out. They want to see what it's about. I tell them, I just played a sold-out show, the Observatory. And they're like, I don't know what the Observatory is. And I'm like, I show them a picture. Check it out. I played right here. Or I came to this show and look how many people there are. I was like, well, that's unbelievable. There's no such thing as this thing in ska music.
Right. It's very specific and underground. It's secluded. It has a very specific audience, or do you think it was very open for anybody who was?
No, it's very specific, but I think I like to think the only reason it's growing is because the older crowds that used to be younger going to shows, they grew up and then they brought their kids and their kids brought their friends, and then just is the younger generation, the people who stuck around and are still fans are helping that generation grow a little more. Yeah.
Right, because we like back in the days when we were going to ska shows, it wouldn't be just everybody there listening to ska, but it would just be a mixture. Everybody just needed something to do on a Saturday or Friday night, so you would just have the punk kids that couldn't find a punk show there. You would have the rude boys that didn't like the ska band, but they still wanted to be within the whole ska scene. And you have bands that disappeared, or some bands that just improvised themselves and got better.
Bands that would just be in backyard shows, or there's some that actually got to play at venues, right?
Yeah, the music scene in LA in general is all love. Like, I like to think that LA, as big as it is one of the only music scenes where you'll find a mixture of a bunch of other bands, and they either heard or support other bands. I'm performing tonight in Montebello, and my friend, his name is Paul, but he goes under a name called Katsuozo, and he plays synth pop. And so, like, him and I went to shows before I even knew you. We went to go see this band from Mexico called Nana Pancha, and like, you know, somebody listens to synth pop. If I never knew him and I caught him at a ska show and I knew who he was, I'd be surprised. I'd be like, yo, I didn't know you like ska music. And he'll tell me, yeah, I've been listening to ska since I was 14. Like, not any other scene would ever do that. This scene right here is where you'll find, you know, a pop band or people from a pop band going to a ska show because they used to like ska one day, or they have a friend who goes to ska shows. This whole music scene here is nothing but love. And even when we were younger, the scene was a lot more smaller, so it was a lot more intimate.
Oh, yeah.
Him and I could, you know, point out who our friends were within a small crowd, or who we saw before, or who we helped out, who helped us out.
Right. It was one of those things where we didn't even notice, but we were already within the bar scenery, kind of like we were a cast from Cheers. We knew everybody that went there. If you were there on the constant, like you went to a show on a Saturday, on a Friday, and on a Sunday, everybody would know you.
Yeah, and they pretty much just saw, hey, is that kid that, you know, that was on the fence hanging out, or that kid I saw in the pit, or, you know, for the worst case occasionally, oh, that kid that punched me or something like that, and you want to start a problem. But sometimes there's people there who are nice. I've never really encountered any problems in the scene myself.
It was just more, I would say, just inside the pit. That's all you would encounter.
You never really pit so much. It was just a lot more calmer. You dance together, you have fun, and then sometimes you'll catch those people like on the street. You're like, remember that show yesterday, or that show last week, or you're going to this show next week or tomorrow. It's pretty fun.
Because ska, the dance is slower, right? Like the original dance. I mean, pits, you see them.
No, that's very still alive. It's still very alive. I play in another band called the Stage 45s, and they claim, you know, they call themselves Jamaican oldies revivals. So they play old school ska. The scene is still there. It's just locally, it's a little smaller. But in LA, people usually classify LA ska as that. If you tell somebody from, you know, another state, you say, you know any bands from LA? Oh yeah, I know Hepcat, I know the Delirians, I know Stage 45s.
Yeah.
And then we say, oh, how about ska punk or ska core? Oh, you know, Voodoo Glow Skulls, or down in, you know, San Diego, Buck 09. And they're like, oh, do you know Chocolacas? Never heard of them. Were they a Spanish ska band? Yeah. And I show them the music. This is what, you know, this band right here is actually a pretty popular band in LA. I would have never imagined. It's like, you know, it's like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, something like that.
But Ocho Calacas has done his transgender to like outside, like Mexico too as well.
So in Mexico, Mexico is kind of a little more ahead of our time, because ska started there a little earlier, you know. But ska wasn't really ska music there. People classify it as like rock en español, or, you know, like
Maldita Vecindad. What's the other brand? Café Tacuba,
Café Inspector.
Rascahuele now, because
nowadays in that scene, so Mexico is way ahead of our time. So Ocho Calacas, like them playing there, it's like, all right, well, that kind of music is already accepted. It's the La Moda, it's the brand over there. And then I would like to think that brand has already started coming over here, because I'm starting to see it in East LA, and I've been talking about it for the last couple months. And I was saying that, like, there's this this wave of neo-Chicanoism or something like that, like people like Brotherhood, and people are accepting, you know, brown culture, and it's getting a little more like, you know, mainstream play. You know, we have bands like Chicano Batman and my friends from the Commons touring right now. Like, those bands are getting well accepted in Santa Cecilia. Like, those bands out there, they're getting love, and I see that other races are enjoying them. And to me, I call that like a successful way to bring our hometown pride, Chicanoism, you know, Latin pride, Mexican pride, all that into airplay and for people to see. So I like to think that Mexican culture is being more apparent here, and with that, eventually ska and rock en español and all that is going to come with it, and it's
Like
going to be
like a
popular.
wave. How you
It's
would
going to
say.
come like a wave, and it'll be hopefully another wave of ska music to be popular.
I mean, you know how every genre, I mean, sometimes I feel like every genre has its own field.
Yeah.
Like hip hop, when you listen to hip hop, I feel like it's kind of like empowering. Like it's telling you did it or something, or you've conquered or something like that. Country, it's telling like a story that's like kind of chill, narrated. But ska, I always felt like it was like, I don't know, I felt like it's centered on love. I felt like a lot of the lyrics would talk about like lágrimas or something like what happened or what is happening, or just the joy of ska and dancing on its own.
To
you
a
know,
certain
like,
extent, it talks about love, but you know, like
I mean, I
all
don't know
music.
about all music does.
Yeah, like
but
all- like
like
all
it had
music-
its field. Like it was like a, I don't know. It was like a, I don't know, a dark romance. I don't know.
And sometimes it'll be a romance too, but it's also like conscious music. It's an art, like an art, because just like yeah, like all music is an art, and art's it's a way of self-expression, and depending on the times or the zeitgeist of this situation, you know, we have, you know, not well accepted president. We have, you know, we have political problems. We have violence all over the place. People want to talk about that. People want to sing about that. And we have, you know, bands like La Resistencia talking about them, bands like Manos Calavera talking about them, saying how like the streets are messed up right now, how this whole like political system is messed up, and how people are suffering. So like in some sense it could be romance. Rock en español songs could be romance too, but I like to think that nowadays music is more politically charged, more conscious.
Too, huh? I'm like, I did have a good political message as well, like what you're talking about, definitely.
Yeah, and it's not just ska too. It's all art. Like I said,
Yeah,
art's a way of self-expression.
The reason why ska and well, Spanish ska is, you know, not so overheard or overseen is it's for the same reasons that we have English ska, like Big D and the Kids Table, the Aquabats, you know, like we have bands that just overtook, you know, like Tokyo Ska Paradise, you know, that overtook ska but just kept it in one genre. Yeah, I mean, like Mustard Plug, you know, it's just ska. It's, and then if it's broken down, you have the rock steady ska, you know, but it's still not fully there unless you heard it on the radio.
Yeah, anything that's not mainstream, it's bound to be shunned or just never to be, you know, acknowledged by the public media. You could be a really great band, but if you're not on the radio, then, you know, no one knows who you are.
I mean, the cool thing too was that LA had young artists with young fans, right? And a lot of them, like you said, have grown up, like people still in the bands or people that still are in the scene, and you get to see the evolution of the band and how it continues growing and how you guys keep developing and all the topics that happen in real life. That's how you're able to have like fans that continue to relate to the music, right?
Or even friendships like, you know, like ours. We didn't go to the same school. We didn't grow up in the same area. I hung out in, you know, Mid City. You hung out in East LA. So the reason why we came about was we had mutual grounds where we would have the ability where they would allow these shows to you know to be put or hosted. Yeah, I mean, we had certain promoters that would push, you know, certain productions. You know, like we had Wasted Production. We had, you know, Nacho promoting for, you know, for I mean, Esteban, you had, you know, your whole
I did have
production.
that.
You know, you were promoting for a while. You were in Eskwilax, you know, for
Played for a little bit with them.
You know, so it was a good, you know, kind of like push to, you know, to just venture out and perform different songs that were. Some that were well known and some that weren't known, yeah, I mean, within the mixture, and then same within the people too as well.
Yeah, I kind of had the opportunity. Mind if I get comfortable?
Yeah, go ahead.
And-
Take your
alright.
shoes off, you know.
There you
Yeah,
go.
you can take off your shirt if you
It's
want.
cool.
No, just
I'll
kidding.
take off my shirt. I'm gonna get you in trouble.
You've just been wanting to take off your shirt.
Well, yeah, this I had the pleasure to experience playing with many different bands because I got to see different points of views of how people think of the music, different dynamics, different standpoints from
Different age groups, too.
Different age groups, different standpoints from what people believe is right and wrong within music or politics or stuff like that. That's how I got to grow up a little more, and I got to be a little more flexible towards people. And you know what? In some, like, I guess in the big picture, it helped me unify and solidify my love for the music. Because people come and go in the scene. I've seen some of my friends are like, oh yeah, I don't listen to that anymore. But it ensures that I really wholeheartedly love this kind of music and love this music scene by just even staying here after being with so many bands, after doing so many things. I've gone through so much in my life. I made some really great friends.
Right. And like you stated when Fox 11 interviewed you, that's another shout out to them, for pushing and having a small time frame for just the ska movement and how parents could be a little bit more open to the idea that not everybody that goes to a punk show, a hardcore show, a ska show, or even just a reggae show, everybody's out there doing drugs or just causing mayhem, like everybody states, because you were, I would say, straight edge for a while. You get me?
Oh, dude, this when I was like younger, going to shows, like I'll see people, I'll see people, on a substance, and I couldn't comprehend why they were doing that. I'd always go to shows, completely sober. Me and my brother would always just go for the fun of it. And people like look at me like I'm weird. And they're like, "You want a beer?" No, I don't drink. I was younger at the time. No, I don't smoke. And like I don't know. I have always promoted that if you're not about it, don't do it. Don't convert or don't conform to, social standards. Don't be the person that people want you to be. Be yourself. I've always been a big advocate of being yourself, educating yourself, doing what you think is right, just for the sake of making yourself happy and just, not having any regrets when you're older. I regret nothing, man. There's a couple that I've done a lot of mess ups in my life, but I don't regret nothing I've done in my scene. I don't regret the friendships I made. I don't regret the fights I've had, the times I've been stranded in the middle of downtown, calling my mom to pick me up. I don't regret nothing of that.
Right, that's good. That's good. Because there's no such thing as as even stating, hey, I went to an event that I disliked. I mean, everybody's there to like every event that you go to. I mean, even if it's a sold out or not, but you're there to enjoy yourself, and that's a good thing that there was a group of people that were okay with you not drinking, not smoking, or even not. If you wanted to hang out with them or not, you were there to enjoy the music, and that's what I guess most of the performers there, the artists or the bands there, admire. They didn't care if everybody got wasted or whatnot, but they cared that people were there to see them, to see the bands.
Yeah, that's one thing I always admire too. That if you're there not to do drugs or to just converse and socialize and recreationally mess yourself up, then that pretty much means you're there for the music. There's no other reason you should be there. I mean, at that in high school, I had homework to do, and I wasn't even doing that great in school. I'll spend most of my weekends hanging out with my friends. I'll leave Friday afternoon after school, meet up with you guys,
right,
go to shows, stay over at Allen's, don't come back home till Sunday night. My mom will be, worried, and then I'll start school again. I'll do okay on my school, and then just keep going.
Right. That's good. Any questions?
I mean, that's pretty good. It kept you pretty motivated to keep doing things that you like to do. Seemed like I just met you today, but a very friendly person, positive. You still create music, which is always a really good outlet in society. It's still keeping a very, very important genre alive. It's a genre that to a lot of people, a lot of young artists were accepted in, even when they weren't accepted in a lot of other spaces because they were into piercings or hair dyeing, or they enjoyed wearing all black all the time, or wearing patches or whatnot. Sometimes you were weird in school, or they would think you didn't shower. Even if you didn't shower, it didn't really matter to these kids there. They were accepted whether they wanted to wear a bunch of clothes or not. It was a very, like a scene, whether you spoke Spanish or English, it was music that you were there, like we were talking about. I mean, I remember them very vividly. Like I told Angel, I was at all those shows that he was at, but I was there super early watching the band set up, and they weren't even going to start till like 10, and I had to go home because I had a curfew. But I still enjoyed going to Steady 45 and all those bands I didn't even know, but I would go. And now I'm like, I'm glad I went. I met a lot of cool people. I don't know a lot of people from the scene, but the music, I can play it anytime. And I'm jamming and I'm singing, and I didn't even know Angel at the time, and we were jamming to the same music. Who knows, years later, I would run into him and, you know, be happy and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I forever will be grateful to all those shows. Thank you for sending those flyers. Those are super cool.
No, thank you. I do keep archive. I do archive a lot of shows. This is just some. Those are just some of those are shows that we're actually playing this till the end of this year. Some shows were shows that we played already. We're playing that one. No, that one's next month. We're playing in Long Beach, and around the same time too. Los Tigres and Norte are playing. So I don't know how that one's gonna go. I'm almost tempted to go to Los Tigres myself.
Huh. Be like, I'm opening and let's go together.
I'll probably end up getting a body double or something.
Play
just
the
going.
same shop.
And so, going back to East LA and the whole movement within the ska scene, we're gonna take a break right now. Okay, my voice. Okay.
Your voice.
How? Right now?
You were talking about, we're about to get into talking about, what were we talking about?
I lost my train of thought.
What do you remember that we were just talking about?
I'm sorry, I was looking at that. And I'm going like this.
But we'll get back to a little bit more about the scene and how you guys continue to see ska nowadays. So we're going to take a break, and you guys stay tuned. Our other half will continue talking about ska, and we have 2 more artists. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commercials.
Cut.
You can break my heart forever if you want to. I'll play the
Closer, so we could hear. If it echoes, we're good. That's what they're telling us.
Okay, but for the most part, you guys can hear me, right? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
You can break my heart forever if you want to. I'll play the 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 I'll play the
Listos. Welcome back. Thanks, Efran, for the wonderful introduction. And then, as we were saying, welcome back to episode
130.
8. 38?
Wow.
35.
35. It was 35.
135.
135.
Thank you so much, Esteban, for being here with us today.
Wow, you see, we missed 1 week and we already got the whole thing.
They were
messed
3
up.
weeks ahead.
3 weeks ahead. Damn, we just took Marco's place. We're like weeks ahead. Oh yeah, so we're back with Esteban, and Josie had an important and a serious question to ask about the whole Scott movement.
How's
On
it
the
going?
spot.
Oh.
Just like that.
Okay, it's because for me, the Eskwilax Hour is super, super important and beautiful because it records everything, like the motion, the operations, the behind the scenes, the idea, and the creation at the end, which is the YouTube show that we end up showing. And I always like to give credit to the whole thing, not just the final part. And I think since you and even Angel too, even me, no, I'm just kidding, not me. But I don't know, I used to go to shows. But we have a special place, or you guys have a special place in like how it continued to stay alive, the ska movement. I mean, I'm sure there was no manual on how to like create ska and then how to keep it going, and or how does it that you make the scene alive, you know?
Like for instance, doing like who would do the flyers, who would arrange what shows were gonna be for what day, how would everybody get together what areas were you mostly playing, and yeah, and exactly why exactly those places. Also, who would try to organize it? Was it an older generation that would try to organize it, or was it the younger generation? What group or what subculture allowed all of this to to even like take place?
I mean, to like talk, even get to that situation, you're gonna have to like look at it from three different points of views: the artist, the promoter, and the fan. And this is something I've always talked about. So from a promoter point of view, the promoters will usually end up asking a hall or a house, or through a friend, or back in the day also through one of those like number calls saying, se renta banquet hall. And then they'll tell them, hey, you know what, I have this event coming up, or I had an idea for this event. how much will you charge me for renting this spot? And then you do the math, you know, and we need this many people to play, you know, we need this many people to pay to make this much money to pay the bands, pay the hall, pay the sound, and get a little bit of money off to yourself. That's how promoters usually think about it. And then the flyers, back in the day, they used to be paper flyers, and the flyers will be passed on during the show. They'll get passed on after the show. They get passed on before the show. And usually, like, they'll tell their friends. And then that was before social media. You know, they'll look at the flyers. And then now through, like...
Right? Because back in the day, we didn't really have Instagram like that. I mean, there was Facebook, but...
Yeah, they would, like, Xerox papers, and then they'll, like, either post them on, like, walls, or they'll put them on, you know, those poles.
Yeah.
They'll pass them on after shows. You walk out after a show, and then you'll see a guy handing out flyers, and that's how you know. That's like the best way of promoting until social media came. And when social media came, then MySpace came, and people started, you know, posting it online, and they'll look at the bulletins and be like, "Hey, look, there's a show coming." And then with the evolution of Facebook, with the invites and the events, like it's just getting a lot more easier to promote, but it's also getting a lot more harder to get people to your shows because
Right.
if they don't see the flyer just due to regulations on social media, then then it's not going to be as effective for your show to be cracking. That's why, like, there's always promoters like Evercore and Cracking Jungle and, you know, other bigger promotions
And
always
it was
pushing.
super cool. Like, there would be text messages too, like chains.
Back then, it would be chain text messages.
Yeah, of where the shows were gonna be.
Yeah, and then as for fans, also going with like how the way fans would promote would be usually like, you know, through the flyers. And then I remember being a kid myself. I was on the Evercore Media mailing subscription, and they'll mail me like, you know, a handful of like flyers, and then they'll ask me if I could promote the flyers, and I'll always be passing out the flyers in my school or outside in the streets or in Garfield. And that's how they got their fans. That's the way fans would always spread the word. I mean, that doesn't exist anymore. I like to think the flyers don't exist anymore. It's like an old art. Musicians, the way musicians help their scene grow, like they're always just like, oh.
This is what we were talking about. It's the finale. You're talking about the whole behind the scenes on how this beautiful
like the
music
mechanisms.
was created.
Yeah,
the
the mechanisms, like the promoters push it, the bands will play it, the fans will spread the word, and that's ultimately how a scene will work.
The key to artistic.
A band's, like, especially now taking the position of a band's role is to spread the music and, you know, wholeheartedly kind of like help the scene get accepted towards other fans. You know, they tell their friends and their friends tell their other friends that, hey, check out this band, and you like them enough, you have a follower, and that follower will tell their other friends. It's cool, especially when playing out of state shows and you're a new band. Like we've played Indianapolis, and that's like a very small city. It's the capital of Indiana, in the middle of nowhere.
Dang.
And so, like, we played this show, and it was like a punk rock night. People didn't know who we were. Some people heard about us because they used to live in LA. That's a weird thing too. People that know about us outside of LA are people that used to live in LA back in the day, and they moved to different states. So there's like 2 or 3 people there. They knew who we were. They were like, "Oh, we're excited. I've seen you guys in like 10, 15 years." And it was like, "Damn, I feel old." And once you start playing, and people are just blown away, and next thing you know, you get messages saying, "I told my friends about you guys. You know, I gotta see you guys next time." Yeah, and then next thing you know, we're playing Indianapolis again. I think there's a flyer somewhere over there. We're playing Indianapolis, and like people were just like, "I can't wait to see you guys. I told my cousin. I told my cousin's kids. I told my cousin's wife. It's gonna be fucking boom, cracking." That's how the scene grows. But just imagine years and years of it in LA, just constant cycles of playing. You know, the scene here, it's I like to think it started in '96 here with Chencha Berinchas. Yeah, so so it started like kind of close to '96 in Southgate, and then it kind of crept over here to East LA, and then Southgate into the Allen Theater, and then also other places like Monkey Bone Productions, Our House Productions, and all of that crept over to East LA with Soho Graphics, and Soho Graphics came into play. And even then, Soho Graphics, the original one on Gage and Cesar Chavez, has a history of it, in the music scene in East LA that corresponds to the Chicano scene as well. You know, with bands like the Dickies, X, you know, the punk band X. and all those other bands like that playing there, at there, and then at the Vex in Alhambra, and that's how it kind of helped the whole like, how do you call it? Not the social movement, you know, the East LA social movement. They were playing there in first Halloween in Vegas.
Ooh,
with our
that's so
friends.
cool.
Yeah, so we've been playing in Vegas for a bit too, and that's how we developed our fan base there. But yeah, man, like going towards that, I went from East LA, going to downtown LA, to South Central, and that's how the whole South Central ska scene kind of started out on there too. Creeping to the Valley, going to Riverside, and all over the place. And now ska's, there's this little pocket of scene all over the place.
Right.
And it's just gonna keep growing. And for us bands, it's a good thing too, cause like now we have more places to play. Cause there was a while where there was only like one production or two productions, and we would play one area for a very long time. I mean, for like the whole time we were hanging out, I would just stay in South Central because all shows in South Central.
Yeah. Or
They would
East
o-
LA.
There would only be one show, one area in East LA where we would go to the South Hall Graphics. But because it's the only area in East LA to go to.
I mean, I guess you need a specific kind of space, right?
Yeah.
What would you guys say?
No, at the beginning we didn't have much places, or even in the middle of my life in the scene, we had no places.
There was places that it was just like a front yard, which it was just like it was just a dirt lot. You know?
We played front yards, played dirt lots. On some occasions, we played evicted houses, and then the cops come and they're like, "No one lives here," and we'll be like, "What do you mean no one lives here? We're playing a show, like we don't know what's going on." It's like, yeah, like there's no owner in this property. You guys are illegally playing at a property that's not yours.
Before the whole squatter law, you know, the 21 days, and you could claim that area.
Yeah, so we did that. The scene is like, it's persistent. If we always play in the tiniest corner, we'll play somewhere. But as long as we get accepted.
There's times I remember that we would open up a lot in downtown and be like, you know what, let's just use it. Like everybody just come here. Like the show would be canceled.
The Wasted Production lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that right there was just a lot in the middle of downtown, and we did our best to throw shows there, and it was fun and all, but it just kind of shows you like at some point in the scene we were still just kind of growing and
right,
trying to make
because there's no security. Everybody was just I'll tell my friend to be security, you know, and because he's the biggest one, or I'll tell my friend because he's the one that, you know, most people look up to within the whole scene, you know. They respect them, so they're not gonna do much.
And I would like to think the reason why we were like that is because like financially we weren't ready to afford security guards and to have legit venues. We were still like a minuscule scene. We had a small amount of people following us. It was generating no money because there were kids with no jobs essentially. So like with that, like we couldn't afford $5. But I mean, when you have to like pay like $1,200 rent for a hall, you can pay $300 a guard, or
right,
you know, $20 for the sound. And next thing you know, the bands want their money. Like back then, bands were cheap, and now there's some bands that are like almost in the
back then. I remember we charged just $15 to $10 just for gas, just to get there, just to be allowed to play at someone's, you know, birthday party. You know, they wanted to, instead of getting like a regular DJ, they wanted to get like 5 ska bands. So, you know, we would be at someone's birthday party. We would even know half of the family there, but everybody would just be playing. And
or even then, like I would recall like being on the blue line of Rancor and going to 92nd and Juniper.
Oh.
And we would like do the trip, like take a bus with all of our equipment, fill the whole back with equipment. I'm talking about like a half stack, a keyboard, somebody holding the speakers, like everything.
Everybody carrying their own guitar.
Yeah,
you know?
and then we'll get off the bus, put it on the blue line, and then the blue line get off where we have to get off at, and then walking there with all this equipment. And we still do the mission, and even sometimes the cops will stop the show and we're there like, now what? And then we sometimes pick the next corner to like play somewhere. On some other occasion when I was in high school, I went to a flyer show and I was gonna meet up with a friend of mine, and for some reason the show just kept getting moved. I was like, oh, it's on 68th in Vermont. Oh, it's on, you know, Broadway and 40th. Oh, it's on Central and whatever's. And then until I go to the last area, like Central and 20th or something, they're like, oh, the show got canceled. And I'm like, no way. We walked all the way from Vermont and 68, 64th, wherever.
Word.
And we come all the way to Central to find out the show got canceled.
or like when we would meet up at everybody's schools, and just meet up at certain school and be like, from here we're gonna walk to, Salon Acapulco, which was a dance hall. It was for cumbia,
Right there on
for like
Los Angeles and Washington.
next to Santee, which was just a dance hall for a lot of music, quinceañeras, birthdays, weddings, but the bands would just take over, and the owner would just see cash on the table. They wouldn't ask questions.
It was a cash thing, and even then, around that area is when the scene started growing. Like right there, you could kind of see it that $5 shows became $8 shows, and $8 shows started being $10 shows, and that's when the scene started growing some net worth, you could almost say, and bands started charging a little more, and things are getting a little more expensive. And then, I saw, even on Facebook, somebody posted a flyer, somewhere around our time, the South Central Ska Circus.
Okay.
It was, in Central and, Century or something like that. It's far, super far. And then somebody posted a flyer, and it was $5 to see, South Central Skankers, Matamosca, JLB, Los Rudos, Ron Boogie. And somebody was just like, oh, I wish I could be there. And then I remember that show, and I was like, I was typing, and I was just like, what a crazy time to think that you could see these bands for $5.
Right.
And now it's $15 to see all those bands all at once.
$20, $25 if depending, like House of Blues or so.
But the good thing is that's good for the bands. I mean, it's growing net worth. Bands are starting to make a little bit of extra money, and if you're wise with it, you're smart. If you're a band and you're smart with it, you can invest to make recordings easier, to pay your band members easier.
I remember there's bands that would do the recordings just off their laptop, off just the computer. They would play it and then just have one person record it, another person just make sure that it doesn't sound staticky. What is it? Los Chiles Verdes,
It is stuff like that. But I mean, even then, those sometimes I think those recordings are a little more better than the recordings I'm hearing now. What's one that I had? One of the first mixtapes I had was Café con Tequila. It was their old
The Conejo Bell.
Yeah, not the Conejo one. First one I had was Café con Tequila. Yeah. And it was before I was in the band. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, it's cool. It's pretty cool. But then when you hear it now, you're just like, dude, this quality was actually pretty good for having a mic all the way here, Yeah. So it's cool. It's just cool that back then bands were all about that.
Right.
It's like us repeating the punk movement, but in ska format.
Right. There was bands that got played on certain locations that were already generating enough audience that it was making revenue for them. Bill Cosby eventually played at the Knitting Factory when the Knitting Factory was still around. It would be, even if it was on a Wednesday, people would still find a day just to go to even the smallest room within the Knitting Factory just to hear one or two bands, that night. Or even just what's another band that played at the Knitting Factory? Escarabajo, a band that just kind of just was there at the moment. Everybody heard it. Everybody was influenced because of those bands, and then later on you see that they're no longer around, that they're not pushing their stuff, and then they're seeing the younger generation actually being able to push their music.
Yeah, we kind of just end up paving the way for that. And I remember being in Mascarados, and I think Evacor, we played the second Scholars ever. And then I remember the guy called me, Clemente. He's a nice guy. He hit me up, and then I was almost starstruck, because it was just here's this production that I followed for so long, which at that time it was 3 years maybe in the scene still. But this here's a production I followed, and they hit me up to play the Knitting Factory, and I'm just little ska band's gonna play at the Knitting Factory. But he did ask for a demo, and that's when I recorded that song Pookie and Sonora and all that. And he asked for some material to at least help promote the bands, and that's what kind of paved the way for these younger bands, because now they're kind of reaping the rewards that we kind of set up for them to play these nice venues, to tell them to record music constantly, to spread to their fan base. And then from this point on, it could only go up from there. The next band's gonna be as prepared as the last band before them, and so on and so forth until eventually we hit like a good crowd.
Because I remember you would make your small playlist, put it on your MySpace profile, and have like maybe your favorite local band being played every time somebody would go onto your page, or having that band play that one song that always everybody knew the lyrics to, but nobody knew actually how it's played, or if it was in the correct order, because you would always see like the singer mix up one or two words here and there, or
definitely this I think if it wasn't for MySpace, that MySpace playlist, I wouldn't have known some bands that are like some of my good friends now. Then that's how I started hearing Ropa Sucia, Mata. That's when I heard Upground from East LA here, another East LA ska band, old school band. That's how I heard Quinto Sol, that's how I heard Café, Masturbo, that's how I heard all those bands. That's right, they did have a shop. Martin, he had a shop down here in Beverly, and I guess it closed down.
Right, but it was one of those you would have certain facilities that would provide that whole ska, Bolochos, Red Zone.
They were giving the insight. They were just like, here's what's in right now in the scene. If you don't know about it.
You would go there to buy your tickets for Evacor, or
I remember going to buy tickets there too, but like those places, like it kind of helps you grow, because like you could take somebody that doesn't know nothing about this music and likes it, or someone that just heard it and they're like, oh, well, what do you recommend for me to hear, and then be like, oh, pick this $5 CD that the owner from Bolochos will give out. Like, hey, give me that CD right there. Here, I'm gonna buy it for you. Here, listen to Nana Panchada. And they'll hear it, and the next thing they'll come back and they want to buy more. And next thing they know a whole repertoire of bands and music, singing along, and they're a fan. And they spread the CDs to their friends, and CDs keeps growing from there.
Right. It's crazy.
I think the biggest one that hit LA, that LA was just like extra hyped about. No, it was LA Sound System.
Oh, dude, that show was so legendary. That was so cool, man.
That was the first show that I paid at least, I would say like $70, because I didn't buy tickets before.
Not $70. No. It was $50.
No, $70 because I was out there early in the morning, and I took the bus. I got there. I spent my whole day just asking everybody that was going to a show, just because I was scared to actually tell somebody, hey, I'm underage, I want to see this band. I'm panhandling outside, asking all the other kids, let me get $1, let me get 50 cents or so, enough to make it to get inside to see the band.
But I remember you had money, but didn't Remy? Didn't he?